As a person and a figure, Mother Teresa was always very important in my life, for as long as I can remember. Even when I was much younger, when I was still little, Mother Teresa was a type of role model for me. I don't know where that came from, but it's always been that way. I can still remember when Mother Teresa died. It was just after Lady Diana, and I'll never forget it. The news hit me really quite hard.
So in the year in which Mother Teresa would have been 100, 22-year-old Laura Storer set out in pursuit of her dream. She went to India, to Calcutta, to the home of the order founded by Mother Teresa. Years before, Laura had decided to work in a hospice and underwent training as an aide for the terminally ill in Germany. But in Calcutta, her first challenge was finding her way around.
Excuse me, to the center of Mother Teresa.
Come.
Which way? No, just... Okay.
Come.
Mother Teresa probably had things a bit easier when she arrived in Calcutta from Eastern Europe to teach at St. Mary's School at the end of the 1920s.
Oh my gosh, all this traffic.
To Laura, just getting down the street seemed like a fight for survival.
The only traffic law that seems to apply here is honking your horn, and I think the louder one is the one who wins.
For the poor, little has really changed since the young nun known as Sister Teresa first came to Calcutta. In 1946, she acted on what she said was divine inspiration and set up her own order, the Missionaries of Charity. Today, the order has missions in more than 100 countries all over the world. The rickshaw driver initially promised to give Laura a free lift. Now he tells her the trip was long and he wants 200 rupees, about €2. Laura bravely begins bargaining with him and eventually pays him 10 rupees.
Okay. 10? You said for free, you know?
She finds the main house of Mother Teresa's order in a small side street.
I believe that here, people with a great deal of love are committed to enhancing the final moments of life for extremely poor people on their deathbeds. They're sacrificing themselves. It has a great deal to do with faith. I admire people who sacrifice themselves for others. I hope I'll be accepted into the Sisters of Charity. I would just really like to help, to be there, to experience it, and to give people something. Even the poor people here. I'm a little disoriented because it's really packed here. It's very loud and there's a whole lot going on. But I'm so excited. I'm really overjoyed. My first impressions are that it's stressful, very dirty, but the people are really, really friendly. It's a huge city with millions of people in the tiniest of spaces. It's chaos.
The steady stream of curious people and interested volunteers has yet to stop even 13 years after Mother Teresa's death. Like Laura, many of them first pay their respects at the famous nun's final resting place.
This is where Mother Teresa lies.
This place is sacred to the mission's nuns. Only after some hesitation did they agree to let us film here. The site soon became a destination for pilgrims. Every year, thousands of visitors come from all over the world. This year, the numbers are particularly large because August 26th would have been Mother Teresa's 100th birthday. Most of the missionaries of charity live here in the Mother House and work for the order in Calcutta. They're very withdrawn and don't like to give interviews, even in conjunction with Mother Teresa's 100th birthday.
Mutter Teresa ist heute noch über
Today, even more than 10 years after her death, Mother Teresa is still the most important person in Calcutta.
Überall hängen Bilder.
There are pictures of her hanging everywhere. She's revered. People from far and wide, and people from the city in particular, make pilgrimages to her grave. They pray there. Naturally, she's left her mark on the entire order. The work of the missionaries of charity is based on her words. She's the most important person. People believe in her. They pray for her and would do anything for her.
In 1999, just 2 years after her death, Pope John Paul II started the process of her beatification. Normally, this may only take place at least 5 years after a person dies. But Mother Teresa was beatified on October 19, 2003. It was, at the time, the most rapid beatification of the modern period. Another day comes to an end for the student from Cologne. The next morning, Laura gets off to an early start. Shortly after 5 a.m., the nuns gather for Mass in the Mother House. The Catholic order says it's not mandatory for the volunteers to take part in the church services, but many choose to begin their day in the spirit of Mother Teresa, even though many of the younger people may have rarely gone to church in their home countries, and certainly not at such an early hour. But everyone here knows that Mother Teresa spent her entire life humbly pursuing her faith in God. And even as head of the order, no exceptions were made for her. Fascination with Mother Teresa hasn't diminished over the years. Hundreds of young novices come here every year for training until they're allowed to wear the habits bearing the order's characteristic blue stripes. The order has more than 4,000 members worldwide. Its rules are simple: a life of poverty, chastity, and obedience, dominated by unconditional service to others. Women joining the order must be between 18 and 35 years old. For many young Indian women, becoming a nun is a route to a secure future. But helping the poorest of the poor has drawn the interest of young people the world over for decades. Laura is no exception in that respect. After Mass, it's time for a little breakfast. Over a simple meal of bread, bananas, and tea, the young volunteers come into contact with each other and receive their tasks for the day. Laura is told to go to the Calcutta home for the dying. This is the way the volunteers are distributed among the Order's 5 homes in Calcutta. Laura is given a pot of food and sets off for Calcutta with a student from Uruguay. Now known as the Home of the Pure Heart, the hospice was the first to be founded by Mother Teresa. That's the way things work here. Volunteers who already know the ropes look after a newcomer and show them what to do. They take the bus to the southeastern suburb of Calcutta, also known as Calcutta. Along the way, Laura gets a few final tips from her colleague.
Here we go. We rode the bus for a long time. It was a really bumpy ride. Now we're in Calcutta, and we're walking to the Calcutta Center. I'm just going to follow him.
The temple complex was built to honor the goddess Kali. In the Hindu faith, Kali represents death and destruction, but she also stands for renewal and new beginnings. It wasn't just by chance that the young Catholic nun established her first hospice here in this neighborhood in 1954. Several masses are held here each day and are part of life within the order. The nuns also say the hospice for the dying at Calcutta is something like Mother Teresa's first love. Here the missionaries of charity care for the seriously ill and dying who would otherwise spend their final days on the streets. Some 100 needy people, separated in wards according to gender, are seen to here. No one is asked about their faith or religion, and Christian prayers and hymns are accepted by Hindus and Muslims as well. Like all volunteers, Laura wears an apron when she's working. The nuns give few directions. The volunteers simply have to find their own way as they work. Laura's experience tending the dying back in Germany is a great help, but she imagined her work here would be a bit different.
It's frightening and extremely difficult. I think I've come here unprepared. It's really intimidating. These are really, really poor people who are terribly thin and tiny. I've already seen a dead person today on my first day.
The main thing here seems to be Mother Teresa's watchword, that the greatest aim of human life is to die at peace with God, rather than in care and with medical attention.
Actually, I only spent a few hours washing and doing laundry with a few other volunteers in something like a fountain. Then I massaged a woman named Maya and brushed her teeth. And that was it, actually.
The order says it doesn't want washing machines, though people have offered to donate them. Even a major donation from a German company that also covered electricity and maintenance costs was turned down for many years. Although Laura can't speak the patient's language, sometimes they understand each other better than Laura does the nuns.
Sit down. Sit. Somebody told me she is not able to sit.
She sits on the chair. On the chair. Yeah.
On the chair? You could help me?
It's so filthy. That was a bit of a shock. Everything is washed in cold water. Plates, glasses, and bed linens. I hadn't expected it to be so crowded and hectic in here. Thousands of people seem to be running around in there.
Laura's first day comes to an end.
I don't think it's that easy to do what the nuns want. They're very busy and demanding and don't explain anything. They just say, do this, and that's the wrong towel. I found that a bit difficult, but it was my first day. Tomorrow I'll know more. Tomorrow it'll be easier.
The missionaries of charity seem to be ever present on Calcutta's streets. They're easy to recognize. The memorabilia business does well, and not just because it's Mother Teresa's centenary. It seems as if the face of the famous nun can be affixed to almost anything. Just as at other pilgrimages, devotionalia is on offer that will serve as a memento or be used for religious meditation back home. And there's a profit to be made as well.
They sell a lot, to people like me, for example.
Calcutta is India's third most populous city. It's estimated some 16 million people live here. More than 3/4 of them are Hindus, some 20% are Muslims. At barely more than 2%, Christians here are a minority. Some say that makes it even more surprising a Catholic order of such great global significance could develop here. No other Catholic movement enjoys as high a level of recognition as Mother Teresa's. Mother Teresa was always seen as being positive for the image of the Catholic Church. The former Archbishop of Calcutta, Henry de Sousa, was a friend of hers. He has observed how the order and the work of the nuns has developed since the death of the Nobel laureate.
It's a little difficult to know how it fits into the new scenario of India. And people are becoming more empowered, and new realities are emerging. In fact, the poor are taking the law into their own hands, and they are fighting for their rights and for justice wherever they feel that they are not receiving the same. And so, in what way will this charism continue? I would not be able to say. But in a huge country like India, there will always be the destitute, the disadvantaged, the disprivileged, the poor, the hungry. And therefore, for a long time to come, the charism of Mother Teresa will definitely have a great impact and need in our country.
The nuns seem deaf to criticism that the order clings to backward methods and resists change. Their main aim, it seems, is to continue serving just as their founder did. The next day, Laura meets other volunteers.
And just in the morning, I will go to Calcutta every
So
morning.
when your father or now if you need something, we can...
Through her experience at hospices for the dying in Cologne, Laura is well able to compare the situation here with how things are back home.
I don't think it's a question of the differences between hospices in Cologne and India. Instead, the thing they have in common is that the patients here are in the last phase of their lives. Otherwise, everything is different. In Germany, everyone has their own room, their bed, photographs, and they just get what they want to eat. They have plenty of time and luxury. People have a roof over their heads here in Calcutta, too, and that's already a good thing. But they lie next to each other on mats in a large room, and there's no privacy. They also get something to eat, but the scale is completely different. There are other priorities here. In Calcutta, the main thing is to give the patients time and to tend to them with love. It's similar in Germany, but the conditions are completely different because of the relative luxury there. Decisions such as whether a person wants music or a television, do they want to hear a CD? Should the blinds be up or down? They can simply express their heart's desire and get it. Here, it's different.
On the roof of the hospice, many of the volunteers seek peace and an escape from the hustle and bustle below. Laura has been working in Calcutta for 4 weeks now. That's a relatively long time. Many volunteers come for just one day or only a few hours. In some ways, it's similar to a tourist sightseeing trip. The nuns don't seem bothered by it, and the patients aren't asked. Curry with rice is on today's menu, just as it was yesterday and will be tomorrow. The nuns don't know how many volunteers come here each year from all over the world. They only know that their numbers increased rather than decreased after Mother Teresa's death. Laura was drawn here by a desire to help the weak. Her experiences in Germany have led her to take a critical view of the situation here. After 4 weeks working in the hospice for the dying, Laura makes her assessment.
In
Calcutta itself, daily life is dominated by compassion. Everything is centered around the poor and the sick who receive care. Food is prepared for them and they are fed. That's compassion. But I had imagined that I would actually see more love in the literal sense of the word. I understand love to be a hug, friendly words, laughing together, living the feeling of love in a group. But in Calcutta, it was very different. The work there is tough, difficult, and they're strict with the patients. Now and then, of course, there's also a smile or two, but that's rare. It's a different type of love, one I wasn't so familiar with. It's because the nuns' days are very full and they do hard, backbreaking work. If they had more time for the patients, then they could spend hours speaking to them or massaging them. In my opinion, there's just not enough time for that, because the nuns sacrifice themselves. Sacrifice for them is the be-all and end-all. They don't say, let's get a dishwasher and save 2 hours of time so we can spend it with the patients doing something nice. Instead, they say, no, we've got to do the hard work here to show that we are humble and that we are willing to invest our very last strength in scrubbing and washing for the poor, out of conviction. Mother Teresa wasn't against progress. I don't believe that she was. But that's the way it's presented here. And I think that's the way it's heading.
For many of the dying in Calcutta, it's the first time they've actually received any love and attention. Indian society still accepts poverty and oppression as a matter of course, so a hospice like Calcutta is a very special place. And Laura's time in Calcutta has been marked by an intensive religious experience.
I think that faith is in and of itself very important in every area of life. Faith gives people strength and welds them together, and that's the most beautiful thing there is.